Hey everyone, editing room wanderer here. I'm on a roof in Mesagoza because I can be. I just wanted to jump in ahead of the start of the video to say this became way more than I meant it to. This was originally a 20 to 25 minute video that just took on a life of its own. So I hope you enjoy it. I mentioned this a little later in the video, but I unfortunately did not record my initial playthrough of this because I didn't think this game would affect me as much as it did. So I did need to take some footage from other places, but anywhere I've taken footage from can be found in the description below. They're awesome YouTube channels, some of them with full playthroughs of the game that I've found myself getting distracted watching while trying to edit. So please do go over there, give them some love. Any videos I make on this from here on out will be exclusively my own footage. And with that, I hope you enjoy the video. Whee! Pokémon is a series that has absolutely dominated pop culture for the last 27 years. Since the release of Pocket Monsters in Japan in 1996, the franchise began its swift and indomitable sweep of the market. It was released in the US 2 years later in 1998, and from there, Pokemania swept over the world. From that point onward, the series rapidly expanded, with the card game growing in popularity and the games themselves becoming so much more accessible to players outside of Japan. Its eventual position at the top of popular culture was inevitable. Certain elements of the games helped with its immediate adoption, like the fact that some Pokemon were only available in one version of the game, resulting in you goading your friends into playing, like a drug dealer tempting an addict, so you could get them to trade you a Mankey or a Vulpix, depending on your version. Personally, I was too young to get into Pokemon when it released, because when it came out, I was still 3 months away from my own personal release date. But a few years down the line, I ended up stealing my brother's copy of Pokémon Sapphire while I was sick at home from school. He'd been playing it on and off for about 2 years at this point, and I didn't know that saving in a Pokemon game would overwrite the previous save. At this point, I'd only played on a PlayStation, and you could have as many saves as you wanted on the memory card. And I was interested in Pokemon. I'd watched some of the movies, I'd watched the anime, and I'd seen ads for Sapphire and Ruby that were due to release within the next few months. So I snuck into his room, took his Game Boy off his bedside table, and in my brainless childishness, started up a new game, picked a starter, and immediately saved over my brother's game. I again want to stress at this point that I did not know it would wipe his save entirely. Of course, because school does not last forever, he eventually came home. He found his Game Boy missing, and when he came into my room, found me bundled up, making my way through the beginning of the Johto region. He understandably freaked out, yelled at me, and left the room. I was very upset, of course, and then 20 minutes later he came back into the room, sat down with me, and helped me get to and beat the first gym. Since there was no getting his save game back, he decided to just help me get the ball rolling on my Pokemon journey, and on what would become an obsession in my later life. Like I said, I'd already been obsessed with Pokemon at this point. I'd burned out my VHS copy of Pokemon 2000 from rewinding and rewatching it constantly. And now that I'd been given a chance to play the games, I went all in. I beat Pokemon Crystal in the space of 2 months, which was great for me at the time considering I'd only just started forming permanent memories. And I was ready to go for the release of Sapphire and Ruby later that year. I got Sapphire, my brother got Ruby. I also got my own copy of Silver, and eventually a copy of Leaf Green. And from there I buried myself into everything Pokemon. Some of my fondest memories are going around conventions, playing Soul Silver with my friends, and going on long strolls with my Pokewalker, something that I'd get to do again in 2016, some years later, when Pokemon Go released. But that's a video all to itself. I did actually end up skipping Diamond and Pearl and the Black and White games. I even missed X and Y until I rounded back to that some years later when I was laid up in hospital for a little while and had nothing on me but my 3DS. I have played the Diamond and Pearl remake, and I didn't enjoy it too much, but I've been told that the actual original version is better, so I'm going to see if I can get a copy of that and remedy my mistake, as well as get a copy of Black and White 2, so I can remedy that egregious mistake, because apparently I would love those games. So when I do eventually get to those, I'll probably make a video about it. But Pokemon is a series that has been a massive part of my life. The only other series that has affected me on a similar scale and been as much of a part of my life, if not more so, is Kingdom Hearts. I mean, my first tattoo was a Pokeball. It was very spur of the moment and it came out a bit misshapen, but it's my ball. For me, the absolute peak of my youth was playing Pokemon Soul Silver and getting to experience my first Pokemon game all over again. And Soul Silver and Heart Gold still to this day stand as the best Pokemon remakes so far. I'm telling you all of this to really drive home the following statement. I think Pokémon Scarlet and Violet are the best games in the Pokemon series since Heart Gold and Soul Silver. It might just be my favorite Pokemon game, full stop. That depends on how the DLC comes out and what that's like, but I am super hopeful. I love these games. But why is it one of the best Pokemon games? Sure, it has some glaring technical issues, but for me at least, none of them have been game-breaking. No, despite its faults, I can't help but love it. It's without a doubt the most ambitious Pokemon game to date. With constant events thanks to the Terror Raid system, a better version of Sword and Shield's max raid battles, and the ability to have friends join you in your own game through the Union Circle to explore Pokemon's first true open world. Which honestly should be the headline here. We finally have an open world game, and hopefully we're one step closer to an MMO-style Pokemon game. But a man can dream. The frame rate may be choppier than the waters of a biblical flood at times, and there are the aforementioned bugs, but I'll gladly put up with all of that for the fantastic world and incredible story that we got. But if you want a video talking about everything wrong with the game, its technical issues and overall limitations, then you're in the wrong place. I have addressed them, and I'm moving on! With that being said, I'd recommend you go into this game like I did, with minimal spoilers. I managed to avoid most of the info on this game, aside from a few scant screenshots and the first trailer, and that is, in my opinion, the best way to experience the game. So if, for whatever reason, you haven't played it yet and you plan to, I implore you to stop watching now and come back when you've played and beaten the game. This is also a good point to mention that I didn't actually think I'd make a video about this when I got the game. I didn't think I'd love it as much as I did, so I recorded none of my gameplay on my initial playthrough. So I'm gonna have to sub in footage from other places, but I'll do my best to credit that footage where I can. So this is your last chance to jump ship. Massive spoiler warning for the entirety of Pokemon Scarlet and Violet. Now that that's out of the way, let's get into it. Welcome, trainers, to the region of Paldea. It's got everything you could ever want. Boundless wilderness to catch and train your Pokemon companions. A school to venture out from on your region-wide treasure hunt. Friends to help you along the way. Terastallization. Paradox Pokemon, a window into the past and the future. MILFs. DILFs. Clive! Yes, all these and more await you here, in Paldea. The game opens to the box legendary, either Koraidon or Miraidon, depending on the version you got. I picked Violet, so I got Miraidon. They blast out of a crater and fly through the sky, seeming a little distressed, and on their flight giving us a wonderful blanket view of the Paldean region, before the poor beastie passes out and crashes on a beach. And from there, we pan up the road a bit to your house. Once again, we are in a new place with new Pokemon and a new story. It's our first day of school, and depending on what version of the game you got, you're either starting in Naranja Academy, Naranja? I'm probably saying that wrong, in Scarlet, and Uva Academy in Violet. Like I said, I picked Violet, so for the most part throughout the video, I'm going to just be talking about the game from my perspective. So you can sub in whatever the equivalent is in Scarlet. I picked Violet, so I'm enrolled in Uva Academy, and almost ready to roll. The school director, Director Clavel, pays you a visit. He's just dropping off some last-minute forms as the school forgot to send them, and he's also taking it upon himself to do the most important job in a Pokemon game. Bring us our starters. The Grass-type Sprigatito, the Fire-type Fuecoco, and the Water-type Quaxley. For my playthrough, I picked Sprigatito, and nicknamed them Spriggan. You get a chance to go on a stroll with all three before choosing them, at the end of which you run into your rival and first new best friend, Nimona. She loves battling and training her Pokemon, and she's a lot more seasoned at it than you are. So the first thing she does is pick the starter weak to the type you picked and ask you to battle her, because Pokemon battling is her love language. You run to her beachfront battle court, bit posh, and fight it out. Once it's all wrapped up, you congratulate each other, and the director asks Nimona to walk you to school, as he still has to head back to your house and make thick in the warm with your mom. So Nimona starts walking you up toward the lighthouse nearby and explains the basics of catching Pokemon. On your way there, you encounter the standard early game Pokemon, some birds, some crawly boys, etc, etc, when you hear the unfamiliar cry of a Pokemon and go on the search for the source of the sound. Nimona cautions you to be careful not to fall over the edge of a nearby cliff, right before you fall over the edge of that nearby cliff. Thankfully, your spiffy new Rotom phone saves you from an agonizing demise, and you shoo away some Houndour accosting the poor, defenseless legendary beast. As it's laying there trying to recover, you give it the ultimate panacea for any ailment. A delicious homemade sandwich, an important mechanic in this game. This reinvigorates the good boy, and they power back up, guiding you through your first cave full of Yungoos, Diglets, and a looming Houndoom eyeballing the hell out of you as you pass by, until the Hound crew gang up on you. The Houndoom wrecks your Pokemon, cause it's level 40, But Nemona manages to get Miraidon's attention, and he alley-oops the both of you out there, before collapsing back into his normal form. Nemona suggests you make your way to the lighthouse, where you run into your second soon-to-be bestie, the floofy-haired culinary artiste, Arvin. He's looking around the lighthouse for Professor Turo, his father, or Professor Sada if you got Scarlet. Fun little tidbit, Turo comes from futuro, future, and Sada comes from pasada, past. That will be relevant later, as the lighthouse also contains a small lab that they used to use, and recognizes Miraidon as a Pokemon his father discovered. He then challenges you to a battle, and after you slap him around a little bit, he hands over a special Pokeball, originally owned by Professor Turo, meant to hold Miraidon, and then he heads away toward Mesagoza and to Uva Academy within. From here, you're pretty much free to amble around the little section out front of Mesagoza before heading in to catch a few more Pokemon and get the lay of the land. Once you head inside, you're treated to Paldea's biggest city, situated slap bang in the middle of the region. Looking like a variety of Spanish cities, the entire city has a very open and bright aesthetic with all manner of shops and food carts to draw the eye and empty the wallet. Overall, it's gorgeous. Once you reach the steps of the academy, you find an adorable kid with a Colgate haircut being accosted by two people who I can only describe as extra. These two troublemakers are part of Team Star, the new bad guy group of the game. You battle them both and send them on their way, and the Colgate girl, your soon-to-be third and final new best friend 5 ever, seems pensive but thanks you. Before you can really get too much out of her, she's off, and you're left to head back up on the steps to meet Director Clavel, who ponders that the distinctive Eevee backpack must mean that the girl was Miss Penny. But more on her later. He leaves you and Nemona to get situated in your new room and to start taking classes. We're then called to the director's office to speak with him and Professor Turo, though Turo is working remotely, so he zooms in. They let us know that they're Arvin's father, and that they conduct research in the Great Crater of Paldea, at a site known as Area Zero. They let us know that the Paldean region is divided up into separate areas, and we're advised that Area Zero is off-limits and super dangerous. It becomes clear at that point that the place Miraidon flew out of at the start of the game was Area Zero. We then find out that we can actually ride Miraidon around like a kick-ass bike, which should make traversing the region much easier. It's also clear that research surrounding Area Zero has resulted in the Paldean region's new powerful form change, terastallization. This new form change crystallizes your Pokemon, makes them get heckin' huge, and also changes their typing to whatever their Terra type is, which results in some seriously interesting new ways to build and balance a team. So this Area Zero place is certainly interesting. Shame we'll never get to go there. Anyways, from there we move forward a little bit in time, and we reach the beginning of the traditional Uva Academy's special independent study project, the Treasure Hunt. The purpose of this project is for you students to go forth into Paldea and look for your treasure. What that treasure is entirely up to you. In the director's own words, you must turn your eyes upon the world and deepen your understanding of it. You have to go out and explore the world, absorb its culture, see the many wonders that nature has to offer you, as well as all of the amazing Pokemon you can catch, train, and befriend along the way. All of this in the hope that on your journey, both with your Pokemon partners and with the friends you make along the way, you might find something that you'll treasure forever. From there, the director sends you and your fellow students on the way with a last-minute reminder that the Great Crater of Paldea is off-limits to all those who do not wish to suffer a most painful death. But it is completely off-limits. We're not allowed there at all. It's a violation of school rules. Message received. We will never, ever be going there. And it's from here that our Pokemon adventure really begins, and we get to step into one of the most exciting parts of this new Pokemon game, the non-linear path system. Since the game is set in a new, entirely open world, how you tackle it and where you go is entirely up to you. The story is split into 3 distinct paths: Victory Road, Starfall Street, and the Path of Legends. You can tackle each path in whatever order you like, dipping in and out, beating a Team Star boss here, getting some ingredients with Arvin there, and flirting with Best Boy while you get your last gym badge. The world is your cloister! The only factor that comes into play with this mix and match non-linear path system is the fact that, depending on how you tackle it, you might be over-leveled or under-leveled for specific parts of the game. That wasn't as much of an issue for me. I never really found myself frustratingly under-leveled, and when I was over-leveled, it just made me feel super powerful, and I enjoyed that. But I understand it is a difficulty for some people. There is a golden path released online that some people have come up with that essentially will bring you step by step through the optimal way to play this game. But that kind of cheapens it for me. If you enjoy it, go look it up. More power to you. But now it's time to get into the meat of this game. The thing that truly makes it stand out against every other Pokemon game. Its story. And just like the game itself, we're going to be tackling this in chapters. Starting with Victory Road. Victory Road, as you might be able to guess if you've played a Pokemon game in the past, is your standard beat the gyms, beat the Elite Four, and become a champion situation. 8 Pokemon gyms in different locations throughout Paldea, all managed by the Pokemon League, and headed up by the top champ Geeta. Each gym also has a fun little test ahead of each gym battle, which I think is a fun little addition rather than a standard puzzle. You can tackle any gym you'd like in any order you'd like, but the recommended order is as follows. Katie, a bug-type gym leader of the Cortondo gym who runs a nearby bakery. Her gym on a platform above the nearby fields is really cool, and I absolutely love her design. Her chef's uniform is on point, and she's as sweet as the treats she bakes. Brassius, the grass-type gym leader of the Artisan gym, a passionate albeit eccentric artist who has filled the town with all manner of statues and structures, with Sunflora being the most common. The wealth of cute flower statues shows that even though he's got a serious face, underneath it all he's got a sunny disposition. Iono is the electric-type gym leader of Lavincia Gym, and is a gym leader tailor-made for this era of gaming. She's an influencer and streamer who live streams all of her battles, or collabs as she calls them, on her show The Iona Zone. Super cute and bubbly, she gives off big VTuber vibes, and brings a jolt of welcome relatability to the game, as well as having an absolutely electric personality. Kofu is the water-type gym leader of Cascarafa Gym. A strange, funny, and adorably joyous older man, he bumps into you on his way to an auction at Porto Marinada, causing you to chase him down to return it. He then teaches you how auctions work, letting you in on some of the best deals in Paldea if you're shrewd enough. After dipping your toes into auctioneering, he battles it out with you, and then sends you on your way with a new badge. Larry! Larry is the normal-type gym leader of Medali Gym, a tired salaryman who would like nothing more than to just eat some nice food at a restaurant, but instead his boss has him overloaded with responsibilities, and he can't stop complaining about work. This good boy just needs a rest, and honestly, I can relate. Plus, he buys you ramen, so he's immediately an 11 out of 10 in my book. Thankfully, now that you've beaten Larry, you may remain friends, and never again shall you cross swords. Rhyme. Rhyme is the ghost-type gym leader of Montenevera Gym, an older woman and rap star who peppers her speech with poetic lyricism and rhythmic witticism. She brings heat to her otherwise cold-as-the-grave gym. Solid vibes, would have brunch with her any day of the week. Tulip. Tulip is the psychic-type gym leader of Alfrenada Gym, and much like Iono, she's an influencer. However, she's a model and much more focused on her makeup and fashion, and it shows. From her team to her aesthetic to the gym itself, everything is on point. Impeccable taste, would happily let her give me a makeover. Grusha. Grusha is the ice-type gym leader of the Glacideo Gym, and the unequivocal best boy. No arguments shall be heard against this fact. He used to be a professional snowboarder, however he now spends his time as a professional brooder, while also balancing that with being the 8th and final gym leader. Don't let his cute style and piercing blue eyes fool you. He'll ensure that you feel the icy bite of reality if you're not careful enough against his ice-type team. He's also a massive tsundere, and I love him. Infinity out of 10, would split a hot chocolate with. Along the way you'll battle your rival Nemona and receive a few check-ins from Pokemon League officials, those characters being Rika, a Pokemon official and one of my new favourite characters in the series, Poppy, an adorable little tag-along of Rika's, Hassel, a bad Sherlock Holmes cosplayer with good advice, and of course the top champ herself, Geeta, the top champion and head of the Pokemon League. And once you've finally bested every gym leader, it's time to head back to Mesagoza and take a short little mountain path up Victory Road and to the Elite Four. At the top of that mountain road you'll find Geeta waiting patiently for you and ushering you in to speak with Rika. You've got a little exam to take just ahead of taking on the Elite Four. It's pretty interesting, I quite like it. I'm not going to tell you the questions and I'm not going to tell you the answers. Figure it out for yourself. But once you do pass, you're sent on into the next room to begin fighting the Elite Four. Rika follows you in afterwards and declares your first opponent. Rika herself. With a team of ground-type Pokemon, she can present a good challenge. However, if you've been dipping between the different paths in the story, then the Elite Four aren't as challenging as they could be. It's still an incredibly fun fight, and it's so much fun to see a member of the Elite Four as excited as you are that you've won. Once you dispatch Rika, it's on to the next member. Turns out, Poppy was more than just a little tag-along. She's the second member of the Elite Four. With a stacked team of Steel-type friends, she's a formidable foe for one so young. But you managed to steal victory right out from under her nose. 2 down and 2 to go, but now comes the hardest challenge you have yet to face. you must once again take up arms against your comrade, your fellow wage slave. Sweet Larry, I do not wish to fight you and your new flying team, but I will do what I must. After grounding Larry's flying team and letting him take a well-earned break, Sherlock Hassel rocks in to challenge you with his dragon team, and I won't lie, I actually did have some difficulty with him, but after many potions and more than a few revives, I finally won. Rika congratulates you and patches up your Pokemon before sending you through the final door and up to the roof to face the top champ, Geeta. With an Espartha, King Gambit, Avalugg, Veluza, and Glamora on her team, it's actually really well balanced, and even if you've over-leveled your team, it still presents a pretty fun fight. Once you beat her, you'll be crowned Pokemon Champion, which in Paldea is more a title you can be given rather than a position held by a single person. And Geeta escorts you down to the entrance, where you're immediately challenged by the ever-present and constantly energized Nemona. Thankfully, you're given a reprieve to rest, and you have to decide where the follow-up battle will take place, and obviously, there's really only one decision. Back in the courtyard at Mazagoza, where you kicked off your adventure. This is definitely one of my favourite rival battles. As you arrive on and get ready to fight, everyone in the main courtyard of Mazagoza gathers around and cheers you both on, as eager to watch the two greatest trainers in the school and possibly the region, aside from Geeta apparently, have a knockdown, drag-out fight until you finally win, and Nemona is delighted to have finally met her match. With a new bond formed and a promise of many battles to come, you head back to your room and the path to Victory Road comes to a close. There are actually some great moments I'd like to talk about concerning Nemona, but those don't happen until the post-game, so I'm going to leave that until my little roundup at the end of the video. But all of that was barely even the beginning. Oh yes, there's so much more to come. We built a bond with Bestie number 1, but now it's time to play Poké Sous Chef to Bestie number 2. The culinary adventure, Arven. For this, we need to roll all the way back to Uva Academy, and chat with our beautiful L'Oreal model with a backpack to take up a quest with him to track down some Titan Pokemon and discover some delicious, delicious magical herbs. These Titan Pokemon have been strengthened by these herbs, called Herba Mystica, an extremely powerful and rare herb only found in the Paldean region. The only reason Arven even knows about them is because of a violet book that his father left behind. To gather all the Herba Mystica, you'll need to help Arven track down these Titan Pokemon, colossal beasts, patrolling the areas around their lair and gatekeeping the lair itself, where the delicious herbs lie within. Think of them like totem Pokemon from Sun and Moon, but on steroids. I'll sum this section up a bit faster than the last one, as the overall story here matters more than the beat-by-beat moments, so we'll tackle how the gameplay works, and then we'll get to the story. Arven enlists you to tackle the following Titans. After beating each and getting the Herba Mystica, you unlock a new ability for Miraidon to traverse the world with. This is the recommended order as well as the reward you get for each one. Cloth, the Stony Cliff Titan, is the first on the list. Heading out into some rocky terrain near Mazagoza, you can encounter him, then chase his ass down to his lair, clap him, and grab that first herb, which unlocks the dash ability for Miraidon, and it makes getting around so much faster. I'd honestly recommend this as the first thing to do before anything else in the game. The dash ability is a must-have. Bombardier, the Open Sky Titan, is the second Titan Pokemon you'll tackle. You'll find them in the West Province, Area 1, of the Paldea region. A big bird boy bopping boulders down the mountain it calls home to keep you away. Once you manage to get all the way to the top, you battle the Titan, chase it to its lair, and you clap them too, clearing the way to grabbing your next Herba Mystica and your next ability from Miraidon, the ability to swim across bodies of water, opening up new areas to conveniently explore. Earthworm, the lurking Steel Titan, is the third Titan Pokemon you'll come across in your journey, and the most ridiculous looking, but in a cute way. I just wish that all Earthworms were this big, it'd make my Pokemon party that bit more ridiculous. Same as always, you fight them, stalk them to their place of residence, and take them to task, earning yourself a new Herba Mystica and another new ability, a high jump ability from Miraidon that'll allow you to cover previously unleapable gaps and reach higher areas that you couldn't get to before. The Quaking Earth Titan is the fourth Titan Pokemon you're likely to face on your jaunt through Paldea. This one is actually different depending on the version of the game you have, and it'll be your first real brush with a Paradox Pokemon. If you got Scarlet, then you'll be rumbling with the past Pokemon Great Tusk, and if you got Violet like I did, then you'll have to roll up against the future Pokemon, Iron Treads. Once you kick them to the curb and get their Herba Mystica, you'll unlock the second to last traversal ability from Miraidon, the ability to glide. Just tap B while you're falling and you'll glide for a limited time, before drifting maladroitly down to the ground. The False Dragon Titan is the 5th and final Titan Pokemon you'll face on the recommended path, and it involves a fun little puzzle before you have to confront Dondozo. But once you defeat them, it turns out you and Arven have been double duped, as an adorable Tatsugiri, that you saw earlier, pops up and gets ready to murder a couple of high schoolers. After your close brush with the darkness of death, you fillet that little fishy boy and grab the final Herba Mystica, and unlock the final and, in my opinion, handiest traversal ability, the ability to climb up pretty much any surface in the game, aside from most buildings and Pokemon centers / shops. You're now an unstoppable force of Pokemon catching power. No area is safe. No Pokemon may sleep lightly, as you finally have the tools necessary to conduct your two-party Dex war on the region of Paldea. Also, you can climb to really high places and then do big jumpies and fly down, and it's fun. But why are you chasing down these Titans and getting these herbs? Well, it isn't completely apparent what Arven's true reasons are until you've gotten the second Herba Mystica. It turns out Arven's companion Pokemon Mabosstiff isn't doing very well. Weak, tired, blind, and lethargic. It seems like he's on death's door. On Arven's initial trip to Area Zero, a Paradox Pokemon gravely injured this floofy good boy. He's tried everything to help his friend. Pokemon centers, berries, different medicinal meals, but nothing worked. And his best friend is only getting worse. It seems like Mabosstiff is at the end of the line. Then he happened upon a book, the Violet book, in his father's lab, with information about strange Pokemon, as well as mystical herbs with the ability to heal and empower, guarded by Titan Pokemon who'd been horsing them back for ages. So to save his best bud, he's decided to track down some of the most powerful Pokemon he's aware of and slap them around like they owe him money, all for the smallest chance that might help his friend get better. And as anyone who owns or has owned a pet they're particularly close to, this is 100% accurate. If my boy Mustang was in the same shape and you told me that I had to fight some legendary monsters for the cure, I'd be out the door with nothing but the spork and determination, and you better believe I'm coming back with a curative Subway sandwich. So every time we beat a Titan and get some herbs, Arven makes a sandwich and we all have some, but Mabosstiff gets their own all to themselves. And for a bit, you can't be certain it's really working. Honestly, I thought it wouldn't. One of the few pieces of information I'd seen about the game was about a new Pokemon, Houndstone, a ghost dog Pokemon, and I was convinced while I was playing that the Herba Mystica wouldn't work, that after everything Mabosstiff would pass on, and then come back to Arven as a Houndstone. As interesting as that may have been, I'm delighted that it didn't pan out that way. No, after everything we go through, and after everything Arven went through, having to discover a mystical herb and track down the monsters defending it, Mabosstiff slowly regains their strength, their eyes uncloud, and their strength returns. In fact, he might even be stronger than before. Once you've collected all the Herba Mystica, you'll receive a call from Turo, who's been checking in on you periodically, though weirdly is low-key douchey with Arven, asking you to come to his lab on Poco Path, the one at the lighthouse where you first met Arven. Once you and Arven travel there and head inside, Professor Turo will pop up on a nearby monitor and ask for your help. They'll explain they're currently in the deepest part of Area Zero, and need your assistance. They need you to find a specific book and bring it to them, all the way in the depths of Area Zero, the most dangerous and forbidden place in Paldea. Coincidentally, the book Arven has had this entire time, the one full of info on strange Pokemon and the Herba Mystica, is the book Turo was looking for. Once you and Arven head back outside, he asks you if you'll actually go. And of course, since you're a young person who's been asked to do something they were previously forbidden to do, you make the only correct decision, and say yes. Arven says that he'll come along with you, but he's worried about the strength of the Pokemon in Area Zero, especially following his last encounter, and what happened to Mabosstiff. So he asks you to help him test his skills in a battle to determine if he's ready. After a pretty enjoyable battle, including a newly revitalized Mabosstiff, we win, but instill confidence in Arven all the same. Not only because he feels strong enough to take on Area Zero, but we've proven that no matter what happens down there, he'll have a strong friend by his side. And once again, we're back in our dorm room, and the Path of Legends is complete. But now we're left with the question of how to reach Area Zero. The only way in is a facility called the Zero Gate, right on the edge of the Great Crater of Paldea. But it's powered down, and we'd need a technical savant to get us in there, let alone get it back online. Which brings us to the third path of our journey, and my personal favourite of the three, Starfall Street. So let's take a moment one last time to roll it back to the start of our adventure outside Uva Academy. Once you've started your treasure hunt and headed outside, you'll see a few students bothering another one. After leaping in and slapping them around like they're a stress toy, you send them on their way. After that, you'll be contacted via your Rotom phone by an unknown number. The person on the other end introduces themselves as Cassiopeia, a figure in Greek mythology that is sometimes known for their arrogance, which may or may not be relevant info for later, and requests your assistance with a job. The job's name? Operation Starfall. The details? Taking down Team Star. Team Star has 5 bosses, all at different places throughout Paldea, and Cassiopeia wants you to help her take them down. In return for your help, she'll provide leak points and some items to sweeten the deal. It seems like they've been causing trouble since they first appeared a year ago, and their former founder disappeared right around that time, splintering them all into different places, and losing any cohesion they had. Cassiopeia wants these ruffians shut down, ASAP. So once you accept, Operation Starfall begins! You have to find each of the 5 Team Star bases and participate in a gauntlet of Pokemon battles called a Star Barrage to reach the boss in each section. Beat their team and then face their Mad Max looking Revavroom, their Starmobiles, to wipe them out, forcing them to give up their position in Team Star. Once you've beaten them all, without any leaders, they'll be forced to disband. The Star Barrage system is actually a ton of fun. At the start of the Star Barrage, all of the Team Star members will throw out their Pokemon to fight you, and you pick your top 3 Pokemon in your party to do battle against them. You throw them all out, and in the style of Pokemon Legends Arceus, they rush around and auto-battle like they would in the overworld. You've got to beat a certain number of them in a certain time frame as you sprint through the base to try and draw out the boss. And oh boy, the boss just rocks up to you for a really fun spectacle fight. I love these fights. Before your first fight, and throughout Starfall Street, you'll be approached by a fellow student, a young man named Clive, who wants to help you in your endeavors to take down Team Star. I'll take all the help I can get, but there's something weirdly familiar about Clive. So with the help of Clive and Cassiopeia, you begin your mission. And just like the other paths, you can take on the bosses in whatever order you choose, but this is the recommended path. I'm going to get this out of the way right now. I'm very likely going to mispronounce the names of the squads, and I'm not sorry about it. I am a little bit, though. Giacomo, the boss of Segan Squad, Team Star's Dark Crew, is a loud, obnoxious, and weirdly lovable amateur DJ who is way more amicable than we've been led to believe Team Star to be, let alone one of their bosses. Once you beat his team and wreck his Starmobile, we're treated to a flashback. But I'll cover that with the rest of them at the end of this. And he shakes your hand in congratulations as he steps down as the boss of Segan Squad. Following the end of this first fight, Cassiopeia calls you, sends you some league points, and also sends an envoy, a member of her supply unit, Penny, the adorable Eevee-obsessed girl that we met at the bottom of the steps on our first day. After talking with her, it seems that she also has a vested interest in bringing down Team Star. It also turns out that she had to leave school last year, right around the time all this Team Star stuff kicked off. Oh, but look, Miraidon likes her and he's giving her kisses and he's giving her... Oh, it's so cute. Oh, that was adorable. What was I saying? Probably doesn't matter. Mela, the boss of Cedar Squad, Team Star's fire crew, a gruff and heavy-handed student, Mela seems like the kind of person to put out a match with a fire hose. It'll get the job done, but it is total overkill. Her force and angry demeanor makes her come off exactly like the rest of Team Star are meant to be. Angry, pushy, and standoffish. Once you beat her, however, that facade starts to slip and, after another flashback, she delivers a crushing handshake with a satisfied smile on her face and agrees to step down too. Atticus, the boss of Navi Squad, Team Star's poison crew. Well, what can I say about Atticus? At first, he comes off like an edgelord. It becomes clear that he's a passionate, verbose, and caring young man who's garnered the loyalty and affection of his crew, and an adorable kid named Yusuf. He's also got one of the coolest outfits in the game, and I desperately want to be able to wear it. Once you beat his Starmobile, we're treated to another cutscene, and he gracefully bows out as the leader of Navi Squad. Ortega, the boss of Rookbok Squad, Team Star's fairy crew. A snarky, short-tempered posh boy, when we first stand up against Ortega, he gives serious Joffrey vibes. He also keeps his team in luxury balls, which is a nice touch. But much like the other bosses, and you may be sensing a pattern here, after we beat him, we're treated to yet another cutscene which sheds further light on Ortega and the rest of Team Star. Then we shake hands in a perfectly curated field of flowers, and we're on our way to the apparent final boss. Eri, the boss of Calf Squad, Team Star's fighting crew. Eri, who rocks an outfit to rival any of the other bosses and any member of the WWE, is an aggressive and hardcore girl on the outside. She takes no excuses and is right at the front, eager to fight anyone who comes to her base. She has to be chided by another member, Carmen, to go back in and wait for us to beat the Star Barrage before bothering to take us on. So, Eri begrudgingly awaits us. One of the first bosses to feel like a true leader, Eri's fight is difficult and she pulls absolutely no punches. However, after we send her Starmobile to the mechanics, we get the last cutscene that sheds light on what really happened last year during the formation of Team Star, and see that Eri is far more than her larger-than-life 1990s wrestler exterior would have you believe. She pulls us in for a glorious Predator handshake, and steps down, beaten, but still secure in her own strength. After we beat Eri, we get one last call from Cassiopeia to give you your last rewards and drop a bomb of information on you. She is the former leader of Team Star, and she challenges you to a final battle at the Academy after dark. So you hop on Miraidon and make tracks for the Academy to finish this once and for all. With all that, it seems like Team Star is just a group of eccentric school bullies, but nothing could be further from the truth, because now it's time to take a look into the past and go over all of the cutscenes that we got at the end of each Team Star boss fight. And oh boy does it hit hard. Each cutscene lets us see a little bit more into the events surrounding the forming of Team Star, a little under a year and a half ago. Turns out, the bosses of Team Star were on the receiving end of constant bullying from other students at the Academy. So they decided, under the guidance of their leader, to band together and pull off one big stunt to scare their bullies out of messing with them ever again. And so a plan was born. They'd stage a display in the courtyard of their school and confront their bullies, in their rad costumes aboard some powerful Starmobiles, and with their friends by their sides, they'd prove that they weren't to be messed with. Mella's the multi-tool of the team, the all-rounder, capable of fixing any problem that the team faces. Despite everything I said about her earlier, she's focused and able to complete anything she puts her mind to, resulting in unwavering faith from her teammates. She was also responsible for roiding up the Rever Room that the Team Star members use for their Starmobiles. She got a bunch of Charcadet to power them up. We even see one of the Charcadet rush up to her at the end of her fight, almost as if it knows her. And it does. It was this adorable, abandoned Charcadet that Mella played with while she was at school. She wasn't always the brash, angry character that we see her as now. She had to develop that persona. She was bullied for being cute and adorable by all of the girls in her class, out of jealousy, and so she developed that harsh exterior to make them stop. And I mean, I'd think twice before messing with her. Have you seen her? Knock you out. Giacomo, the de facto team leader following the disappearance of their founder, used to be the student council president. Unfortunately, the policies he introduced were unintuitive and a bit too strict for the liking of the other students, so they voted him out. Having lost all support, he was ousted, and Nimona was voted in as their new, very, very popular student council president. Humiliated and alone, picked on by members of the student body following his abrupt shove out of student council presidency, Giacomo found friendship and solace amongst other students who were bullied and ostracized. Despite the doubts he had, his fellow Team Star members encouraged him to codify and outline the rules of conduct for Team Star, which the group follows to this day. He's the one who wrote the rule that allows us to dismantle them, that they must accept any challenge put forth to them, and should they fail, they have to step down and leave Team Star. He's relied on by the rest of Team Star to bring them together and enact their plans with care, like their initial plan to shock and awe their bullies. Though he seems a bit odd, he does his best to care for his friends and try and make sure the world around him is kind and fair. Atticus is a young man, apparently legitimately descended from ninjas, which is pretty badass, I'm not gonna lie. He has a passion for fashion, and an understanding of interesting aesthetics, both old and new. This is evident in all of the Team Star boss uniforms. He's the guy that made them. And it takes a really, really good friend, someone who not only understands you enough to take your vibe, your whole aesthetic, and make something that is true to that, but just to do that in the first place. Not even just to do it well, like he does, giving each of their uniforms their own distinct flair and personality to match. Bullied and shunned for his love of old-fashioned things, he found like minds and kindness amongst the other members of Team Star, and he shares an especially close and adorable bond with his fellow student Yusef. Ortega, while he is short-tempered and capable of the sharpest snide remarks, actually isn't a bad guy. He deeply cares for his friends in Team Star. He's also an incredibly talented mechanical engineer, responsible for conceptualizing and building the Starmobiles later powered up by Mella. By himself! Elon Musk wishes he was as good as Ortega. As I mentioned earlier, he is posh boy. His family actually owns a major apparel company in Paldea, so he's loaded. But despite that, he finds no friends amongst the students in the academy, and is bullied by a good majority of them. So he bonded with the other Team Star members, and found accepting friends amongst them. Despite his snark, I just love him. And his outfit's cute as shit. And last but far from least, Eri, Team Star's gentle giant. Very much the big sister of the group, Eri helped the other Team Star bosses train up their Pokemon. She also acted as a mediator when fights broke out amongst the members, helping them to break them down and resolve them. Eri is an outstanding athlete, and her diligence and experience with personal discipline is what helps Team Star's training regimen stay on track. She's willing to fight and risk herself for her friends, even just to keep them out of any perceivable harm's way. Like when we find her out front of her base, before any other Team Star members, ready to just take on anyone who comes, to make sure that her fellow Team Star members won't be hurt, and that their Pokemon won't be needlessly harmed. On the outside, Eri appears aggressive, but deep down, she means no harm. The reason why she ended up joining Team Star is because her fellow students chose her as their target of bullying and harassment due to her status as the new class queen. She was an incredible athlete, extremely kind and talented, a great trainer, and pretty. And where a person succeeds, there's always someone ready to spit venom at them. Despite the cruelties of her bullies, Eri shows her soft side to Carmen, the person who started all the rumors that snowballed into her being bullied and ostracized. Carmen was the former queen of the class and started the rumors in the hopes that she could take back her old position. But once Eri was gone, the mob that she'd created had no other target other than Carmen herself, and Carmen was similarly bullied and pushed out of their own little social bubble. Eri helped Carmen by explaining her empathy as a former victim of bullying, and invited her to join Team Star as a grunt. As a result, Carmen began to appreciate Eri's kind and warm nature, and joined Team Star. She even got so close to her that when Eri is standing out front, Carmen is the one who comes out and convinces her to rest and go back inside and wait for the official Star Barrage to take place. She's gone from hating her to doing her best to look out for her. After we defeat her, Eri admits that she felt like she could take on anything. That looking at her badge, by the way, I forgot to mention, you do get cool badges from each member of Team Star when you defeat them. It's like a really awesome homebrew version of the Pokemon League badges, and I love them. But staring at her badge makes her feel strong, like she could take on anything. She also keeps her Pokemon in heal balls, and I love that for her. It's cute as hell. And it's with these realizations that we must now go to confront Cassiopeia, to see why she's done what she's done, to see why she's decided to tear down Team Star. Why would their former leader, their founder, want to hurt them and force them to disband? They've already been through so much, and now to take away the team that they built, the foundations that they now have, the family they found, it's unacceptable. And the fact that she made you her tool to do it makes it sting all the more. So as we arrive at Uva Academy in the dark of night, we're more than ready to get some answers. However, there's one final battle that we must partake in before fighting Cassiopeia. One final betrayal that cuts deeper than any other. As we reach the front door of the school, we see our dear companion, Clive. But before we can utter a word, he reveals his grand deception. All this time, Clive was actually Director Clavel, and on top of that, he's also Cassiopeia. Using pre-recorded voice-altered messages, he confounded and manipulated us. So he challenges us to one final showdown. We fight it out, and he does put up a good fight, though he's no match for the tempered blade of our team at this point on our journey. He even remarks on how much we've grown over the course of our journey, and then apologizes. While his perfect and expertly hidden alternate identity of Clive was true, his claim that he is Cassiopeia was not. Their identity yet remains hidden, but he can guess at who they truly are. In confronting you, Clavel hoped to spare you battling them, as their sorrows are not something that you should have to bear. However, it's apparent now that Cassiopeia has settled on a course of action that no other student would be capable of diverting them from, save for you. And when we make our way to the schoolyard after dark, it all makes sense. Cassiopeia, the big boss of Team Star, and the mastermind behind Operation Starfall is none other than our dear, sweet, toothpaste-haired bestie, Penny. It turns out that our trouncing of the two Team Star grunts on our first day of school was what triggered the idea for Operation Starfall. With Penny's remarkable tech skills, she had unlimited access to league points to tempt us into helping her, and she could keep an eye on us as a member of Cassiopeia's supply unit. She had us take on the bosses of Team Star on her behalf, all for the goal of beating the big boss and putting an end to Team Star. But even after all that, there's a part of her that can't let it go, that can't just roll over and let you win without putting up a fight. After all, she started Team Star, she was behind its creation, and she's seen how it brought the bosses together. So she's going all out in your final battle with her and her team of Eevees. She tasks Clive with recording this battle and sending it to Team Star, so they can see the outcome of your clash for themselves, and finally see their founder, rather than just hear them as a voice through their phones. And once we finish our team off, we're treated to a cutscene that ties things together. This cutscene takes place after Team Star's big reveal to the rest of the school. After confronting their bullies in front of the rest of the school with their Starmobiles, awesome costumes, and their newfound confidence in each other, the bullies promptly backed off. The Team Star bosses didn't even need to fight anyone. All they managed to do was state that they were willing to fight tooth and nail if their bullies kept up their campaign of douchebagitude, and the bullies took their threat very seriously. They developed into blubbering, apologetic messes, and then beat feet before anything could happen to them. Then, they made a huge stink about it to the school administration, and left the academy. With those bullies having set the narrative for what happened, it gave Team Star their new awful reputation, rather than the reputation they deserved. That of amazing and talented friends, uniting against the people who hurt and ostracized them. And so Cassiopeia, having started and led the group from the shadows of their bedroom, says that they should disband, so that the other bosses can go back to their normal school life, and she'll deal with any of the fallout. Even with their protests that she can't, and that she can finally leave her room so they can meet her, and they can all at last be happy. She sees no other way, and bids them goodbye. And so, the true story begins to reveal itself. The team didn't disband because the codes of the group dictated that no one could order anyone else around. But Penny knew that the bosses would do anything that the code required of them, and Giacomo had written the rule that they had to accept any challenge received, and should they lose a battle after being challenged following a formal star barrage, they would need to step down as a boss and leave the team. Director Clive, now having been given the full story, asks Penny one final question. What do her fellow Team Star members mean to her? Almost without hesitation, Penny professes that they are her greatest treasure. And with that, Clive has all he needs. In quick succession, he reveals himself to Penny as the director, and then has one final reveal for her, as he calls out to the hidden Team Star bosses, who have just borne witness to everything. They all roll out and get the chance to speak to their founder face to face for the first time, bidding hasta la vista to Cassiopeia, and hello to Penny. They accept her without question and without judgment as their dear friend. It's enough to melt the coldest heart. And in a shocking display, Director Clavel apologizes to the members of Team Star. He started as director just after the Team Star incident, so all he knew of the school was a place free from bullying and mean-spirited people. He didn't realize that this version of the school was built on the back of Team Star's struggles and pain, that they were wrongly cast out when they should have been commended and embraced. And so he rescinds his previous proclamation that all members of Team Star leave the group under threat of expulsion. And so Team Star is free to continue doing what they were doing, and the team are able to let Penny know that they understand now why she did what she did. She only went ahead with Operation Starfall because she was worried about her friends getting expelled, and they all rejoice knowing that they can finally, all of them, be together. However, Director Clavel has more to say. He calls out their extended truancy, their unabashed modification of school uniforms, the reckless misuse of super-powered vehicle Pokémon, all manner of crimes and misdemeanor issues that they have accrued in their time as Team Star. These transgressions cannot go unpunished. Oh no, they will do community service. Staffing and running STCs. And no, for you Warhammer fans out there, that's not standard template constructs. They're star training centers. They'll be responsible for helping new trainers cultivate and build their talents and skills, as well as their bonds with each other and their Pokemon. And it's going to be founded in collaboration with the Pokemon League, so it will be official. The bases, as well as the tactics employed by the students in Team Star, are remarkably unique and creative. It'd be a shame to waste such a fantastic idea. So he would like the bosses to continue their activities in Team Star, but as STC staff members from now on, using their former bases as training facilities. With the bosses and Penny now able to spend time together in real life, and the new chance to maintain Team Star and go to school together, it's as happy an ending as possible. Clavel makes it clear that we should all take our leave, but requests that we meet him in his office. Once there, he again thanks us for helping him right this egregious wrong and allowing the Team Star members to reintegrate back into the academy. Penny follows us in not long after, and accepts the offer to work in the STCs, but she feels that she should be punished more severely than the rest, as she admits to hacking into the Pokemon League system to steal league points. Something apparently not possible as far as Clavel knew, but evidently exceedingly simple for Penny. Clavel agrees to speak with the League about this and bids you both goodbye. We then get a call from Penny to meet her out front of the school where we first met. She gets a little emotional talking about how she and the team had come up with their catchphrase, "Hasta la vista." So cringy it's perfect. She also lets us know that she got off pretty easy with the whole grand larceny thing, by agreeing to do some volunteer engineering for the League. They even offered her a job when she graduates, so all in all it's a net win. She points out that the director and Geeta kept complimenting her, calling her remarkably talented, if you can believe that, giving you a further look at the quiet, self-conscious kid she really is. But she powers through it, trying her best to communicate properly in person, something she's admittedly not the best at. She thanks you for helping her and her friends, and lets you know that if you ever need her help with something, to just let her know. She's looking forward to being the one there to help you next time. Then with one final hasta la vista, she gives you an adorable smile and runs up the stairs back to the academy, where she can now safely return to, and the friends in the academy that she loves. And that's that. That's all of it. The 3 paths of your journey are finally complete. You've become a champion on Victory Road, you've defeated and reunited a group of misunderstood friends in Starfall Street, and you beat up some legendary titans, eat some tasty and not so tasty sandwiches, and help a boy revive his closest, dearest friend in the Path of Legends. Although, now that I think about it, I got so caught up in Starfall Street that I forgot about Professor Turo's request for help. Maybe we should talk to Geeta and the director. Let the proper authorities handle it. Although Penny's a technical marvel, and Nemona's a headstrong, powerful trainer, almost as powerful as you are, and Arvin has the knowledge about Area Zero we'll need to get in there and navigate the place. Yeah, we're strong enough and we've got strong friends by our side. Time to open up the Zero Gate and help Arvin's father find the way home. You call around to your 3 BFFs and arrive on at the Zero Gate. Penny does what Penny do and hacks in to get it active. Then we get the main door open and are treated to the cutest cutscene in the game, and one of the most exhilarating moments in a Pokemon game as you and your friends climb upon Miraidon's back and you leap into the unknown dangers of Area Zero. We finally get to see the bizarre biome inside of the Great Crater of Paldea, and begin to saunter vaguely downwards. The dialogue here is so cute. It's exactly like when you have some friends who don't know each other, but they all know you, and you all meet up, and they're all kind of trying to get to know one another, but still being nervous because new people are scary. Except for Nemona. Nemona don't give a damn. She just wants to see all the new super strong Pokemon, and I, for one, agree. Professor Turo instructs us to make our way to each of the research stations throughout Area Zero, which will allow us to transfer to the next level and unlock the next research station. We need to keep doing this until we get to the Zero Lab, where Professor Turo was holed up. Along the way, we encounter several strange Paradox Pokemon similar to ones we know of, but so very different at the same time. If you're playing Scarlet, they'll be much more primal looking, as though they're a version of the Pokemon we know from far back in the past. And if you're playing Violet, they seem like a futuristic version, plated with metal and LEDs all over the shop. I also want to take a brief moment to mention how incredible the themes are in this game, because the Area Zero theme is one of the most thematic, vibe-setting pieces of music I've ever heard. It gives you this feeling of an alien environment, strange and unknown and definitely dangerous, despite how majestic it all is. That and the Terror Raid music are 2 of my favourite musical pieces in the game, as well as the series as a whole. There's one piece of music that beats that out, but we'll get to that in a moment. As we descend further, it becomes clear that something is off with Professor Turo. His overall robotic way of speaking has, up until now, felt like a facet of his character. However, once he starts stuttering and seemingly glitching as he instructs us to find our way down, it might just be more than a character trait. We battle and explore until we unlock all 4 locks in each research station, each one more disheveled than the last. Especially Research Station 4. It seems like some kind of horrible accident occurred here. The whole station practically destroyed. Leaving there and moving on, we find ourselves underground, surrounded by glittering rocks and shimmering stalactites, and as we approach the gate to the Zero Lab, it's explained that this entire cave is made of the same crystals that make up our Terra Orbs, what we use to terrestrialize our Pokemon. Turo explains that these crystals have the ability to optimize machines and change the functions of living organisms, and implies that they can do even more. As we approach the gate to unlock it, Turo tells us to prepare to confront the dangerous Pokemon inside the lab, as they will likely make a break for freedom the moment the gate is opened. If they were to get out into Paldea en masse, it would be catastrophic. Though, with my friends here, we're confident we can take on whatever appears. Arvin makes a good point that Miraidon came from here, so maybe him being here will help it take back on its combat form. Everyone else agrees, since it couldn't hurt to have a powerful Pokemon on our side to help fight whatever appears. So we let him out. Then as soon as we slap that button and the gate starts to open, we're confronted by another Miraidon. One much bigger and angrier than our good boy. Instead of having a pleasant family reunion, it acts like a douche and threatens him with a massive roar. Nimona is a bit confused, but Penny is quick to recognize a bully when she sees one. So I will from now on refer to it as Miraidouche, to help distinguish it from our own Miraidon. The Miraidouche makes its way up the ramp and into the Zero Lab, but not before giving us some serious side-eye. And then we're left to battle the ensuing onslaught of Paradox Pokemon that make their way out. You and each of your friends face off against a Paradox Pokemon, and Mabostiff finally gets some vengeance on these Area Zero scum. The number of Pokemon starts to grow, and your friends decide it's better if they hold them off and make sure none escape, while you get in there and make sure that Miraidouche hasn't started making things even worse. Arvin even gives our Miraidon an inspiring speech, and lets him know that even though his father spent Arvin's childhood obsessed with it and the other Paradox Pokemon, he still considers him a friend, so he better not let that Miraidouche push him around. We head in the tunnel and find that part of it has been blasted away, leading into another section of the lab. Inside we see Professor Turo, slumped in a chair, seemingly unconscious. As we approach, however, he notices us and quirks up, stating, "Human presence detected within the Zero Lab," which is definitely a weird way to say hello. He then takes himself out of power-saving mode, and it becomes clear what he really is, though that inspires more questions than it answers. He robotically stands up and moves towards us, thanking us for coming, before putting Miraidouche in its place. That place being a Master Ball. He tells us what we already know, that Miraidon was a douchebag. Then he explains that the reason why our Miraidon fled Area Zero was because it lost a territorial dispute against the Miraidouche, and that's when he drops the bomb we already knew was coming. He's afraid that there's something for which he must apologize. He is not the true Professor Turo. He's an AI that the Professor created, imbued with his memories and knowledge. In short, an AI-powered robot. The real Professor died in the accident that destroyed Research Station 4. Apparently, he failed to accurately judge the power of the Pokemon they were researching there. AI Turo explains that the original Professor seemed to want nothing more than for your Miraidon to survive and thrive, which is why he threw himself in front of your Miraidon to shield it from the blast, grievously injuring himself in the process. From the moment we first spoke with him in Director Clavel's office, that entire time, he's been an AI. He maintained this deception and guided us here because he needs our help with one final thing that he must do at the Zero Lab. He needs you to put a stop to the time machine the original Professor created. As you both make your way to the elevator to the lowest level of Area Zero, he addresses the questions that you understandably have about what his existence as an AI means, whether he's his own person or just a complete copy. He even states that humanity isn't at the point where they can create this type of sophisticated AI yet. It's only the crystals in this place that made his creation possible, and they're also why he can't leave. He recaps the death of the original Professor and expresses that he is afraid. Another hint that he may be more than just an unfeeling AI, that it will be difficult for Arvin to accept the fact his father has been dead for quite some time. He also expands on the main question we're all asking right now: what's up with the time machine? Apparently, he and the Professor, while he was alive, developed it using the power of the crystals found in Area Zero. It allows them to send a Pokeball to another point in the timeline, catch a Pokemon there, and then recall that Pokemon back to our time, with the future Pokemon caught inside. When he was alive, the Professor had an incredible fascination with these future Pokemon. Apparently, the time machine is even now continuing to automatically draw future Pokemon to this time. And once we've gotten those answers, we're prompted to ask one final question: what do you really want? For the first time, he becomes almost pensive, remarking that the original Professor once dreamed of a time where future Pokemon and present Pokemon lived in harmony. But because of the strange power these Pokemon have gained due to the adaptations they've had to make in this far-flung future, this dream cannot come to pass. The future Pokemon's very existence brings destruction to the ecological balance of this current age. They just cannot coexist. They're practically different creatures altogether from the present-day Pokemon. AI Turo feels like OG Turo would have thought that such destruction is a natural part of life, and he seems to think that that's wrong, showing a marked difference between AI and OG Turo. Right now, the barrier around Area Zero is still managing to contain these future Pokemon, but that will only last for so long. Eventually, they'll break out and run rampant across Paldea, causing all manner of destruction. And when that happens, they'll crush the beautiful, natural version of present-day Paldea beneath their feet. And AI Turo just can't see the logic in letting that kind of destruction come to pass. And the only way of stopping it now is by destroying the greatest AI that the original Professor ever created. That's where you come in. You've become a formidable trainer throughout your journey. The strength you've built up, the skills you've gained must now be turned toward the obliteration of the dream once cherished by Turo. Once you accept this task, AI Turo thanks you for your willingness to help them, and the elevator grinds to a halt as you reach the lowest level and your final test begins. Moving into the heart of Area Zero, the walls of the time machine chamber are made up of perfectly carved Terra crystals. It's like a Terra Ray dungeon that's been manufactured to serve a specific purpose. No natural, jagged crystals, all meticulously carved. This is the place where the original professor and AI Turo built the time machine using the power of this terrestrial phenomenon. Approaching the pedestal, AI Turo tells us the key to stopping the time machine is the professor's ID, which he embedded in the Violet book, the book you and Arvin have been using to find the Herba Mystica. This book, that started the original professor's dream, will now be the key to stopping it in its tracks. All that's needed now is to place the Violet book on the pedestal in the time machine, and the shutdown can begin. Unfortunately, there's one issue. Like all complex machinery, there's a failsafe. If we try to stop the machine, AI Turo will likely attack us. Though he wants to see the machine stopped, his own desires can be overridden by the system's programming, and once that happens, he'll be nothing more than a battle machine, bound to defeat any who try to stop the original professor's dream from coming to fruition. The original professor programmed his battling abilities to be peerless, built upon analysis of all the battles carried out by the various champions of the Paldea region. He's tailor-made to battle any and all who get in his way. Despite that, having seen the bond between you and your Pokemon grow throughout your journey, he believes you can prevail. With all that having been said, it's time to place the Violet book on the pedestal and bring an end to all of this. We place the book on the pedestal and the shutdown begins, but our access is denied. And just as AI Turo expected, the offensive protocols built into his programming take over, as the walls shimmer to a deep gold, and Turo's eyes change to a deep black, with bright blue pupils. He's no longer in control. "It's up to you now," he says, right before he's placed in sleep mode, and his programming at last assumes control. The beginnings of my favorite theme start to play, and just as a side note, I only found out while researching for this video that Toby Fox had a hand in the sound and theme side of things for this game, and it shows. This feels like an Undertale fight. The floor of the room begins to rise up towards the time machine, and honestly, there's no better argument for why the Pokemon games should have voice acting in them than this entire final battle. AI Turo's final plea for us to defeat him is almost lost to us, as he turns and catches a Master Ball pulled from the future. Now the original professor's desire to protect his dream, his own treasure, from being destroyed, takes the stage. Gone is the level-headed AI professor. Now we're faced with the closest thing that we're going to have to the original Professor Turo, a man obsessed with seeing future Pokemon pulled to our time, to see what the future of the Pokemon world is like, and to study and live with these Pokemon regardless of the destruction they will inevitably cause. You're now fighting the leftover memories of your friend's father that died going insane over his research, and there's something so existentially upsetting about AI Turo actually being horrified by the extent to which its original self went to protect his dream. This is a Pokemon game, by the way, just in case you'd forgotten. As the menacing Professor Turo drops future Pokemon after future Pokemon down from atop his plinth, we take them on and beat them down one after the other. All the while, the Professor waxes on, certain that regardless of your progress, his data will overwhelm you, that you have no hope of winning, until you prove him wrong, causing him to overload upon his supposed defeat, the towering platform collapsing to the ground and the crystals in the walls turning an obsidian black. While a twitching, broken AI Turo stands and gets his bearings, your friends finally arrive and Arvin confronts him, asking who is he really? He's known from the get-go that something wasn't right, and he wants answers, but something feels off. The game now even showing a question mark next to Professor Turo's name in the text box, as if he may have control again. Or is perhaps some of the old, original professor bleeding through now that you've bested his combat protocols? He thanks us for everything we've done. The time machine is finally stopped. He remarks on Arvin's appearance, marveling at how big he's grown, how proud he is of him, and how sorry he is that Arvin's been alone for so long. Before a startled Arvin can even process what's happening, the walls shift to a dangerous-looking Violet and an alarm starts to wail. Threat to time machine detected. It seems that original Turo had one last safeguard in place to stop anyone from interrupting or destroying the time machine. A safeguard that even AI Turo didn't know about. The Paradise Protection Protocol. AI Turo shocked, aghast at the thought that all the professor truly seemed to care about was keeping the time machine running. As AI Turo struggles to maintain control, the Paradise Protection Protocol clicks into place, locking all Pokeballs except for those registered to Turo's ID. rendering you and your friends helpless to defend yourselves. As AI Turo begins to be consumed by terrestrial energy, slowly crystallizing as the Paradise Protection Protocol takes over, he apologizes and begs you and your friends to run while you still can, before he's once again subsumed by the PPP, and the floor once again ascends upward toward the time machine, the true final battle beginning. As he reaches into his pocket and drops his final Pokeball, Miraidouche, the Guardian of Paradise, explodes from within, and you throw out your own Pokeball in turn. Unfortunately, they remain locked by the Paradise Protection Protocol, with no Pokemon on the field to battle with. You're defenseless against this monster. But there was something that the Paradise Protection Protocol said that sticks out in your mind. All Pokeballs, except those registered to Turo's ID. That leaves you with only one option, a final Hail Mary attempt to fight back, as you throw out Miraidon's Pokeball, the special ball that Arven gave you at the beginning of the game, the one that belonged to his father. Miraidon bursts free, and its confidence having been bolstered by his friends cheering him on, and you, his trainer, there at his back, he transforms into his battle form, explosively strong gusts of wind blasting throughout the room, buffeting Turo at the top of his obsidian tower, and so begins a knockdown, drag-out fight between you and Turo one last time. His Miraidouche almost beating us with a powerful blast that takes our good boy to the brink, sitting dangerously at 1 HP. As all seems lost, Penny notices your Terra Orb glowing, and Arven yells for you to terrastalize and finish this off. And in a make-or-break move, you terrastalize, hit them with a powerful Dragon-type Terra Blast, and shatter both Miraidouche and the Paradise Protection Protocol. AI Turo is once again back in control atop the tower, overjoyed at how marvelous you all are, managing to defy even the original professor's final protections. With AI Turo back in control, something even he did not foresee being possible, he's astounded at you and your friend's determination. That while even on the brink of despair you did not falter, and instead proved your worthiness, showing the wisdom to think for yourselves, the courage to hold faith in your friends, and the fortitude to do what needs to be done. He's confident that no matter what future awaits you, you will be capable of walking whatever paths you choose for yourselves with pride. He thanks you, but sadly, the time machine cannot be put to a complete stop as long as he's still here. It's now apparent to him that he is himself a part of the system that ensures the machine reboots once stopped. There's only one last thing to be done. AI Turo must run the machine one final time and send himself through it, out of this timeline and away from the system that governs him and the machine, shutting it down for good. In his last moments, he admits to feeling some jealousy as he watched you all on your journeys, envying your freedom, your ability to seek out friends, to seek out strength in yourself as well as in others. Your resolve to face down even the greatest enemies to save that which you love. The way that you never ceased to seek nor to fight for, a treasure all your own. He envies that freedom, as it's not something he's ever known, having been bound to this place since his creation. He wishes to be able to seek out his own treasure and find his own path, so he will use the time machine to journey to the future he's dreamed of and seek out his own treasure. Inspired by you all, he's surprised to find that he feels his heart racing with the thrill of adventure, it being clear now to us that he's far beyond a simple robot. With one final, emotional goodbye, he lets Arven know that beyond all else, his father truly loved him. Taking the violet book in hand, he bids us adieu, and is lifted up and through the portal as it fires up one final time, and AI Turo disappears, the machine abruptly shutting down, and all energy seeming to evaporate from the room, the Terra crystals making that room becoming inert. After a brief discussion, you all leave Area Zero together, and we pick up with our team seemingly a bit run down, and who can blame them? Especially sweet poor Arven. So, Nimona, in an attempt to bring the mood up, declares that we should take the long way home and get some more fun out of your adventure. You all agree, and then all of you go off the road, and true to form, walk your own path together. And with that, our adventure truly has come to an end. There's plenty of fun post-game stuff, like shiny hunting, a fun battle tower style system that happens as part of a school event. I didn't even get the chance to talk about the Pokemon of Ruin, essentially the evil and negative emotions of tons of different people throughout centuries, specifically some evil rulers throughout the centuries, that have coalesced into Pokemon. And then those Pokemon were sealed away. So of course we unseal them and catch them, because why not? It's a Pokemon game. And then there's the Terra Raids, small dungeons that increase in difficulty throughout the game, where you can go in and either join up with your friends or challenge them alone with some AI companions to defeat and catch powerful Terra-type Pokemon. It's another fun way of building out interesting teams. There's also frequent events where we can fight new Pokemon, like the Paradox Pokemon Walking Wake and Iron Leaves, popping up periodically. We've seen a few of them. We've also gotten to fight other Pokemon like Blissey, Typhlosion, Samurott, Decidueye. There have been tons so far, and I'm really looking forward to seeing what comes next. And if it keeps things interesting, it keeps me playing. But as far as the main story goes, that's a wrap. Your journey so far is complete. You beat the gym leaders, conquered the Elite Four and became a champion, and found a rival in Nemona. You sought out the Team Star bosses, and defeated and befriended their mysterious founder Penny, and you battled the Titan Pokemon, got the Herba Mystica, and saved Arven's good boy, and became friends with him in the process. Then all of you come together, an entire journey's worth of learning, bonding, and fighting, bolstering one another against the hardships of your individual and collective journey. They all make up a team of which you are the heart, the glue that holds it all together. Then you all come together to help AI Turo rectify a problem created by the original professor. And through that final struggle, we see what happens when someone's search for their own personal treasure turns to obsession. What happens when all that matters is achieving some perceived goal and ignoring what's going on around you in the present. We see what happens when you live for the destination rather than enjoying the journey. We can almost feel the original professor's panic in the final battle theme, the frantic denial that their dream could ever possibly be shattered, be undone, never to be realized. And though he may have thought that nothing could stand in the way of his blind pursuit of his own perceived treasure, the original professor's mad ambition is nothing when compared to the bonds of friendship that you have formed, not only with your Pokemon partners, but with your friends along the way. Their belief in you and your belief in them is what brought you all here to this endgame. And it's with their help that you're strong enough to do what needs to be done. And it's with a bittersweet goodbye that Turo leaves us. But we can at least be hopeful for them, that they'll have the opportunity to take the first steps of their own journey, independent of their programming, and in a future that so far they've only dreamt of. And you get some nice post-game follow-up with your friends. Nemona realizes that it's okay that she's really strong and powerful. It's not something she has to apologize for. And she's delighted to have found a strong friend and rival in you, who'll always be there to help her and match her tenacity. We see Penny sneaking around after the members of Team Star as they reintegrate into school, trying to keep an eye on them and realizing that they're actually doing just fine. What they really need is their best friend with them. They need Penny there so that they can all enjoy their lives together. And Arven, his resolve buttressed by the events that took place in Area Zero, decides that he's going to continue his culinary experimentation, determined to discover new ways to help other trainers look after their Pokemon, like he managed to do for Mabostiff. Honestly, it's enough to turn you into a weeping mess. The entire theme of the game is about searching for something that you'll treasure, but over the course of the game, its true moral becomes clear. Do not let the goal distract you from the path you're walking and the people you meet along the way, because those are the real treasure. Journey before destination. And I'm not ashamed to say this game had me in tears on more than one occasion, but that last chapter completely broke me. I'm actually tearing up right now just thinking about it. God damn it. The story for this game is peak Pokemon, and I cannot wait to see what the DLC, the Hidden Treasure of Area Zero, has in store. This is the first Pokemon game to really make me feel how I felt watching the anime and the movies. I've never felt more like a main character in Pokemon than playing this game. It made me feel how I felt playing those games and watching those things as a child, and I really didn't think it would. I'll definitely make a follow-up video once the DLC drops and I've had my time with that, and I'm so excited to see what comes from the series if it continues down this development path. We could be seeing a complete renaissance of Pokemon. And I mean, if they wanted to, like, you know, maybe do an open-world Kalos region, that'd be pretty cool. But for now, I'll be enjoying taking the long way home with my friends. I hope you enjoyed the video, and if you did, slap that like button like it owes you league points. This was definitely the biggest project I've done so far, and it was my first proper attempt at scripting, so I hope it turned out okay, and I hope you enjoyed it. and I really hope I've gotten across how much I adore this game. I'd love to hear about how your journey went and what starter you picked, as well as your favourite parts about the game overall. So let me know in the comments below what you thought of it, and if you think I missed anything extremely important, feel free to let me know. I'll include it in the next video. And if you like this and want some more, you can find my socials down in the description, as well as my Twitch channel. My Twitch channel, where I'll be doing a sleepathon for the release of Tears of the Kingdom. I'll definitely be doing a video on that as well once I absolutely destroy that game. I'll be doing some giveaways during that stream, as well as some fun challenges and goals that we'll be hopefully achieving throughout the course of it. So if you want a fun time, I stream on there pretty regularly, but that's the day to put in your calendars. Head on over there and follow me if you want to be notified for when it happens. And if you liked it, hit the sub button. It's the only way that YouTube lets me know people care. For now, I am going to bounce. Talk to you later.